Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another telecast. In this video, I'm speaking with 4 different YouTube experts from Little Dot Studios, one of the world leaders in digital video production, distribution and monetization, to get some of their top tips for TV producers on how to get the most out of the platform. For more videos featuring TV and content industry leaders, just hit subscribe.
Telecast.
Welcome to Telecast, James. You all right?
Yeah, good. Hello.
Thank you for coming on the show. So you're going to help demystify YouTube for us, for the YouTube skeptics out there, because I know there's a lot of them, and there's a slight amount of perhaps misunderstanding still exists within the more traditional areas of the TV industry, and we're going to plunge a little bit. I know there's a lot. So first of all, tell us about your role at Little Dot, what you do and who you do it for.
Sure. So I'm Managing Director of Entertainment at Little Dot. So I oversee a team of about 110 editors, account managers, insights analysts, specialists, graphic designers, and all kind of manner of skill sets. So essentially we work white label for IP holders, be they broadcasters, SVOD platforms, independent production companies, talent, distributors, and essentially we do a multi-service offering running channel management, paid media amplification, direct ad sales, copyright management for these rights holders across a multitude of different social platforms. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter/X, Snapchat. If it's got social video, we operate there. So our kind of main aim is to try and help our partners kind of realize the potential in their IP, be it revenue generation or brand affinity or audience reach or whatever it may be. Our aim is to help them just kind of maximize the value of that across social video.
And this, some of that sounds a little bit daunting, I suppose, because there's so many ways into it and so many reasons to be involved in YouTube. But, perhaps some of the producers are more reticent to put their content onto YouTube and really stay on the traditional path, which is waiting for the commission from the Channel 4s and the ITVs and the BBCs of the world in the UK anyway. It's becoming a little bit of a crunch time, I think, for many. And I think there's quite a few myths around YouTube in terms of what sort of content works on there, how long the content is. And also how many views you need to get to make any meaningful revenue. So let's just talk about the broadcasters and rights holders that you currently represent. How is working on YouTube specifically benefiting them?
So I suppose we've worked on YouTube for over a decade, and the perception of that platform has changed massively over that time. I think 10 years ago, when we were talking to production companies and saying we could look at YouTube, it was very much cat videos and skateboards and all of that, kind of very heavily influencer-led content, and wasn't taken very seriously. I think because of that, we were able to actually get quite a lot of free rein to kind of experiment on the platform, because no one was really caring what we were doing in terms of, fine, clip it out, put it out there. But the perception of YouTube's evolved massively. I think as a platform themselves, they have pivoted from being a social kind of platform centric to being more of a streamer and kind of competing with the likes of Netflix and Prime Video and other kind of SVOD and AVOD platforms out there. I think in terms of how we help IP owners and broadcasters, the kind of core thing we do is understand what their KPIs are. I'd say that about 80% of the partners that I work with, their core KPI is monetization. How do I realize the revenue that from my IP? And then I'd say the other 20% is kind of marketing centric, audience acquisition, building a brand, and how they then convert that into a funnel, be it to an SVOD or direct to purchase, or if it's just about reaching younger audiences that they can't reach on other platforms. So I think the complex kind of nature of different kind of KPIs means that you have different strategies for different IPs and different approaches. But I think the good thing about YouTube specifically is the malleability of the product and the platform. You can aim for long form for much older audiences. You can be doing short form for younger audiences. Whatever those kind of KPIs can be serviced through that platform. So in terms of how we help kind of those IP holders and broadcasters. So I think it's fully understanding what it is they're trying to achieve and how do we kind of build a custom-made strategy to help service that kind of KPI, really.
Yeah. So, well, let's start at the very beginning and looking at YouTube. So it's the world's second biggest website, essentially. Yeah. That's probably a good starting point, right? Obviously owned by Google, which is the world's #1 website. And search is something that is extremely powerful when it comes to content discovery on both of those platforms. Let's talk about these myths then in terms of what's working on YouTube now more than ever before. And we've seen recently Mr. Beast has actually started to extend the length of his content, and he's finding that, watch time is an incredibly important metric, perhaps more so than subscribers. Is that right? Tell us about the playoff between watch time and subscribers.
Yeah, so I whenever I talk to kind of new potential clients and partners and stuff like that, I very early on say that subscribers are a vanity metric. It's nice to point at. You can get a nice silver or golden, or if you're very successful, diamond button, but it's just something to point at. It doesn't actually really quantify value. I would say the value is the watch time, the engagements, the return viewers, the momentum that you're building within the algorithm. Because you've got channels with millions and millions of subscribers that are uploading videos getting tens of thousands of views. You could have a channel with a handful of subscribers getting millions of views. Which one is more valuable to the uploader? So definitely, I think subscribers are a nice to have, but I would say they're a consequence, not the cause. Watch time is definitely a core focus. I think it's been really interesting over the last couple of years. YouTube and Meta were fairly unfazed in terms of like evolving their product for quite a long period of time. And then TikTok came along as such a disruptor into the market where, they had such phenomenal growth, and it was very much short form centric and very quick disposable content that as a reaction, Reels and Shorts were released. So everybody talked about social video in purely vertical short form mindset. And for a large swathe of people that are consuming it, that is how they consume social content. And that is, an indisputable fact, especially Meta's kind of pivoting to Reels as a primary video product. What we found over that kind of 2-year period, over the last 2 years with YouTube, is they lent heavily into Shorts, but it's not matured as a monetizable product as well as, say, their longer form. So you could get millions and millions of views, but they wouldn't be worth anything near the kind of viewing and RPMs that you would get on a normal video. So weirdly, you've got these two kind of parallel ecosystems and audiences and behaviors where you do have these short form kind of pockets where people consume short videos that might get millions and millions of views. But realistically, on the non-shorts product, the longer content is dominating, because ultimately YouTube does want to be a streamer. The longer people are engaged with the content and the longer they stay at their destination, the more engaging and more valuable that content is for YouTube as a platform. So we've definitely seen a pivot towards longer content being more dominant algorithmically, but also with the kind of rise of connected TV, like in terms of fast viewing, which obviously fast has been the big buzzword within TV for the last kind of 12, 18 months. YouTube makes up 50% of all fast consumption in the US. So it's a dominant player in that space, and they want to keep people on the platform for as long as possible. So your full episodes, your multi-episode compilations, that is the stuff that not only are the platforms pushing, but the audiences consume, and like viewing behaviors lean into that. So you've got these kind of two separate ecosystems that have evolved on YouTube, the ultra short form and the super long form.
And people don't normally think about YouTube as a fast channel, really, do they? It's always left out of that conversation. Everyone thinks about Samsung TV Plus, but actually the same, the fact it's app based on your TV, on your TV interface, and we know that more and more people, as you say, are watching YouTube on their TV as opposed to just watching it on their handset or on their iPad, for example.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, the kind of when you look back at the data and the audience demographics of the people that are consuming it, connected TVs is the fastest growing device on the platform. Still, mobile phone is I would say, the most dominant device that people consume YouTube on, but connected TVs is rising up the rankings. And what's interesting about it is the value of the advertising around views on connected TV is far greater than that on mobile. So if you're kind of main goal is to realize the revenue potential in your content. Understanding how to get it in front of people that are watching on connected TV and sticking around for longer is by far the fastest and most effective way to make the most money possible.
And it's interesting what you say there about multi-episode compilations. So if you've got a series, a 10-part series, for example, a documentary series, you can put those on as a series onto YouTube, obviously, and either over a sequence of period of time or upload them all together. We can maybe talk about that, the right way to do that in a second. But the multi-episode compilations of putting, 4 hours together or maybe 2 5-hour shows is becoming more and more popular, isn't it? And delivering more, as you say, when it comes to advertising revenue. So is that something that you're doing as well for your clients?
Yeah, so quite interestingly, I'd say about like 5-6 years ago, we had to operate within promotional clip usage rights. Most people, because YouTube wasn't seen as a central focus, if we were dealing with shows that are on TV, obviously the broadcaster will give you a limited clip usage. So our view was, okay, so how do we make the most of these clips? You kind of pick all the kind of key moments, the things that are going to drive engagement. But we knew that actually you might have multiple kind of 4-minute clips, but if you made a thematic compilation that was 12 minutes long, that was going to do well, like even better because of the algorithmic preference to push the longer content. Now with full episodes, we're doing that just on a much larger scale. So we've got some instances where there may be, for instance, Cops. We work with Langley Productions that makes the TV show Cops. We'll have full-length episodes, but also we could stitch them together that all of the Florida cases and all of the, crazy arrests and things like that. And so you can either do it sequentially in the way that it broadcasts. You can do it thematically where actually they're based in states or they're based on types of crimes or, and there's ways of looking at catalogues and an archive and making a whole different way of packaging it. One of our other partners, New Dominion, who have similar kind of true crime, FBI files and New Detectives, we've completely changed the way in which that's been packaged and distributed digitally. And now it's got a whole new audience and kind of build real momentum around these kind of mega compilations and new ways of packaging it.
So YouTube is getting bigger. More and more people are watching YouTube. Is it too late for producers now? Is there too much competition? Because there's content creators, there are so many different producers and content creators and broadcasters putting content up there, and the content is getting more higher and higher quality, TV quality. Is it too late? Is it too late to start to build a community? Because it seems to be so much competition. It's very difficult to get any traction.
Yeah, thankfully, no. It's not too late. What I would say is that understanding what it is you're trying to achieve will help you decide what the best way to approach it is. If you're trying to build up a brand awareness and it's actually more important that you've got brand affinity and an audience that you're building on that may then lead and funnel on to something else, then you can utilize short form shorts on YouTube and then reels on Facebook and TikTok itself. These are all ways to kind of do fast cut through, and you don't need a pre-existing momentum and algorithmic kind of presence to really punch through. That's a way of doing it. What we also have found is that YouTube doesn't want to just have it be a location of legacy stuff that's just sitting there forever. Like it's starting to, for want of a better expression, tank older successful videos to surface new content, new creators, new uploaders, stuff like that. And as a result, part of our strategy is sometimes we're looking at, well, let's launch multiple channels, multiple iterations of a certain show to help kind of build different locations for it that are reaching slightly different audiences. It could be packaged to reach, much older demographics, or it can be packaged to be very humorous and meme heavy in terms of its optimization to reach younger audiences, but it could be the same content, just packaged in two very different ways. So I wouldn't say that it's too late. What I would say is kind of understanding what it is that you're hoping to achieve, because it can seem overwhelming. There is so much to do. And I think with YouTube specifically, it's not just a video platform. Yes, they're pivoting from social to a streamer, but there are the social elements of it. There are comment sections, community sections. There's opportunities to kind of create interactive polls and clickable links and all of those types of things. So there's loads of different ways that you can interact with the community, and it shouldn't be just one-way traffic. You shouldn't just be posting it, setting and forgetting. You're trying to build a culture and community. And so the key thing to that is understanding who's consuming your audience, who's consuming your content, what they kind of like. I often talk about trying to understand kind of two languages. One of the algorithm, how do you get your content served? And one of the audience, like how do people want to consume it? What do they want to consume? And if you can kind of get those two correct, then you start building serious momentum.
Is a niche content better or worse for revenue generation?
That's a tough one to answer because it can definitely help you find an audience. We have, as well as working white label for IP owners, we have our owned and operated network of over 50 channels across YouTube. And it started out that we were doing digital rights management for distributors that had vast catalogues of factual content. We started to see the demand for it. So then we made a destination, a hub, where we licensed that long form and put it out there. Started out with generic documentaries, and then we realized actually history does really well. So we had Timeline, which is our history one. And then we realized, you know what? There are these niches. So now there's Chronicle, which is all medieval history. There's War Stories, which is World War II history. And then you can drill down into those niches. Now that content can live in multiple places. Those people that are just generic, want to find something long form interesting to watch, might come to the more generic hub. But those are absolutely obsessive about Rommel. They're going to go to War Stories. So it's just that kind of thing of like understanding who it is you're trying to reach and what kind of impact you're trying to have. So I think niche has its benefits. I think you can definitely drive much more meaningful engagement. If you find a core audience and you're feeding them what they want, then they will comment, they will like, they will become real advocates for your brand, for your IP. And that in of itself drives that kind of algorithmic performance. But then also if you're going too niche, you might not put in the correct kind of optimization, tags, metadata, titles that would reach that broader audience that would equally enjoy it. They just don't know about it. So it's trying to find that balance. And I think one of the things that we're constantly doing is assessing performance over kind of periods of time. And actually, is that title right? Is that metadata right? Are we too niche, too broad? How do we make sure we're hitting the right kind of spectrum of people?
And this is something that I've learned over the last 2 months once we've launched our YouTube channel on Telecast, and the metadata and tags, hashtags, the amount of information they actually put in your description, your title, your thumbnail.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is, it seems slightly overwhelming to begin with, but it is just a new skill set that if you're a content creator putting your content onto YouTube, you've got to learn, because as you say, it's about discoverability and building audiences. And so when it comes to new skill sets that a producer, for example, who's there, they've got a catalog, they've never really put their stuff onto YouTube before, they're not getting any commissions from from the regular broadcasters. What are the new skill sets that they need to learn in terms of pivoting their business and starting to generate their own revenue?
So I think in terms of how to understand how to kind of surface algorithmically on the platform, I think that's absolutely key, because there's a vast amount of content going out on YouTube every second, like thousands of hours. It's just like an absolute abundance of content. So how do you get your stuff seen? So I think the first thing to do is make sure when you're uploading it, is it in the right format, and is it the right kind of content that people are looking for? And by format, it's like, am I trying to hit younger audiences that are using the short form one? Am I trying to reach certain like demographics by using the longer form content? How is it titled? How is it packaged? Because ultimately, the first thing you do is you do that, and that kind of puts the video out to get impressions, and that's getting hopefully in front of the right people. Once you've got in front of the right people, is it packaged correctly to draw them in? And the number one thing they see is the thumbnail. The thumbnail is so valuable because it's the window into the video. Is it representative? Is it engaging enough for someone to say, yeah, that's what I want? But also, is it representative enough so when they click it, it is what they wanted, what they thought the video was going to be. And we do lots of tests on what is the kind of impact on click-through rates. And one of my favorite tests one of my team did was what impact facial expressions have on click-through rates. Mouth open, mouth closed, surprise, something like that. Mouth open had a 10% higher click-through rate.
Which is why you see Mr. Beast looking
shocked and high contrast in the whites of his eyes. Yeah, it's like he has a team of 6 people that make nothing but thumbnails. So like that's so important on that click-through rate. But then also once you've got it through, is it representative of the content? Because then it's retention. If people click through and they bounce, then they know then YouTube's algorithm will go, that's a poor video.
Clickbait,
exactly.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so that will keep them, if they stay around for long enough and the average view duration or retention is decent, then what will happen is the next time you upload a video, YouTube will go, well, we put it in front of these people, they clicked it, they stuck around, so this is the kind of content they want, let's serve it again. And then you start building momentum. And I think the key thing to remember is like writing titles almost like you are a magazine article title, that kind of thing. It's like, what is telling the story in a very short amount of time that's compelling and engaging, makes people want to know more, but like is concise enough that it doesn't roll off the screen and they're not seeing what it is. So I think that's really important. The thumbnail is exciting and engaging and people want to click on it. But then also the content is what they're after, and I think metadata being, making sure you're hitting the kind of core points of the video, but, reaching the kind of pockets of interest that you're trying to achieve. So those types of things constantly checking those things will help kind of improve the overall video and then as a result, channel performance. But one of the other things to do is go back and check, like if you've had a video that's underperformed, but that this is good content, but no one's engaging with it, well, something's not quite right. Either your thumbnail's not cut up to scratch or your title doesn't quite grab or you've kind of been a bit lazy on the tags. Like it's not a set and forget. Like we constantly will go back and audit stuff from a year ago. Like we have whole teams dedicated to kind of checking historic performance and how do we refresh that. But I think if you're starting a channel yourself, like it's just making sure the videos from the previous weeks, you're just keeping an eye on them and what is the little tweaks I can do. And I think just knowing that there's a kind of almost like a gardening nature to it. You've got to kind of keep checking. Tending to it, that's it. Yeah, tending to the older stuff as well as focusing on the new. I think this is really important.
Yeah, and that's something that I've learned. You don't just bung stuff up there and forget it and expect the algorithm to do its magic. You do need to learn and just check and data, is something that YouTube gives you an enormous amount of, right? I mean, out of all the social platforms, the quality and the depth of data that it gives you is amazing. And so, the ability to interpret that in the right way is super important, right? So again, in terms of a skill that a producer is going to need, we hear about data scientists and people with very, very fancy names when it comes to data. But is a rudimentary interest and knowledge of data and how to interpret it important for a content creator?
Yes, I think that I really nerd out about it, and I've been working on YouTube for over 10 years, and I just find it fascinating that you can drill down into all sorts of information, like view durations, where the drop off, where the peak of interest, where do people rewind and rewatch, So ultimately, like a really kind of crude example is if you've got a long form video, but you want to make clips, you can literally go into the video and see where's the most interesting part in terms of what people are rewatching and highest in terms of like percentage of interest. So those are types of things you go, right, well, that will obviously be my clip. You don't even need to watch the content to kind of find what is the most engaging part of it. So there's elements like that. There is obviously metadata and the way in which it kind of pulls people in. But I just find it fascinating that you can get so many different types of information from it. And again, it can be overwhelming. But I think the key thing is trying to understand what's the stuff that matters. So if your KPI is marketing and like audience engagement, well, then that's the stuff you can look at. What is the kind of number of comments? What are the likes? What's the likes to dislikes ratio? What's the demographics? Where are they watching it? Being able to kind of visualize that and see it and kind of pull that into your strategy, I think is crucial. So I'm aware that, like I'm saying, you need to know how to do graphic design and understand data and all of these. It can be a bit overwhelming, but I think the kind of core thing is throw yourself into it, and you'll be amazed at how much you quickly pick up by just being in the analytics constantly and just looking at the stuff. And
there is plenty of help out there as well, aren't there? There are actually YouTube channels dedicated to helping you learn about the algorithm and how important chapters are, for example, in your content and all the rest of it. So there are lots of tools out there for you to be able to upskill yourself. Or obviously you can work with a company like yours who can help you do that. Let's talk about monetization then, which is the thing that's going to be most, I think, important to producers who are looking to pivot and maybe change their business to be a bit more self-sustaining going forward. Tell us about the roadmap to making money on YouTube. So we've got our factual producer with a catalogue of content that's actually sat there on servers. They need to generate a certain number of followers before YouTube will start monetizing their content.
In terms of monetization, I know that the kind of core thing is you set it up with an AdSense account. You can set it up with a credit card or anything like that with a bank account. And I think it is 1,000 subscribers, and I can't remember the watch time that you need to kind of get past. But in terms of a barrier to monetization, YouTube is definitely the fastest to kind of get there. I know with Meta, you have to have over 10,000 fans on a page, and I can't remember what the watch time is. They've increased it. But yes, you need to get past these thresholds. And understandably, it's to stop people from farming it out and automating it and just making money off of crap, essentially. But with YouTube, once you've got your kind of AdSense account set up, you can start monetizing it. In terms of the different monetizational products, like Shorts does monetize, but at a very low CPM, whereas the longer form monetizes much higher. Anything over 8 minutes, you can have a mid-roll in. So if you've got a video that's 7 minutes and 59 seconds, literally just add some blank space at the end. Like that extra, just getting it over the 8-minute mark, like will get you to the mid-roll point and can help you double the kind of revenue that you can generate from it. But it's also important to know that, especially if you're anyone that's creating content really cares about the narrative of it. It's not just necessarily filling it with adverts. You can place the adverts in the mid-rolls once you get past that point to make sure it doesn't disrupt the story or the narrative or anything like that. So I think that, the kind of core thing for monetization, if that's the core KPI, then definitely longer is better. But kind of building that kind of retained audience, so when they stick there, they stick around.
And you don't need to necessarily rely on those ads. You can actually sell your own sponsorship as well, can't you?
Yeah. So there's other ways of making money. So there's sponsorships, which is one where actually it's a bit like Patreon, where people can pay a monthly fee to be a member of your channel, and then with the memberships, not sponsorships, memberships. They can get access to behind the scenes stuff and stuff like that. So I would say it's more kind of creator focused than it is necessarily like a IP or a TV show. You can also do direct ad selling where you, as well as Google AdSense sold inventory, there is direct sold inventory. That's quite difficult to set up. Like we've been going kind of 12 years and we've been doing direct ad sales for I think 4 or 5, but that's not freely available to everyone. You have to have a direct ad sales license. So you can do that, but that's a way of selling at a much higher rate card than Google. And then there's sponsorships, which is where we've worked with some partners where there'll be a brand wants to do a buyout of a channel, kind of sponsor their banner and have clickable links in the descriptions, and then also buy the inventory around it. And in some instances, we've had channels make more from a 3-month sponsorship than a year's worth of AdSense revenue.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about some case studies then, some examples of how IP owners or broadcasters within the TV industry have gone on to have real success within YouTube. Can you give us a few examples?
I think like one of the difficulties I have is because we're white label, I can't freely talk about all of the ones that I'd love to talk about, but a few that I can talk about is, so we worked with the Graham Norton Show for over 11 years, and we launched the channel on YouTube, and it's been a phenomenal success. And it started out very short clips, and then we were able to kind of make longer compilations. One of the really fun things we did with that is, obviously, when the show's on air, it's Hollywood stars and it's all relevant and it's culturally part of the conversation. But often there would be shows or films coming up that we might not necessarily have access, or the show might not even be on air when the Game of Thrones is about to, the new series of Game of Thrones or whatever the show might be. But all of those stars have been on the show. So we can make a best of Game of Thrones compilation, or, with Top Gun Maverick coming out, well, then every time Tom Cruise has been on the show, and those types of things. So you can make thematic compilations from historic content that is culturally relevant now. And it becomes part of the zeitgeist, part of the conversation. And then before you know it, it's on the Mail Online and it's being shared. And, it builds this real momentum, becomes tied to the current cultural event from the historic content. So that's been a real pleasure to kind of do that, and we've managed to do that across kind of all platforms. And yeah,
for you've done a great job because you can't get away from it. It's like every time you pick up your phone, is Graham Norton there?
Yeah, no, that's been a really, really fun project to work on. One of the ones where I can't name the title, but I'll just say for a US studio, had a 90s sitcom that isn't Friends. It definitely isn't Friends. Right. But it was about the protagonist in it was. It was like her fashion was a kind of core part of the show. And what was really interesting is, again, it's a sitcom that Gen Z and Gen Alpha never would have like watched when they weren't alive when it was on air. But 90s fashion is relevant, so actually we lent heavily into the 90s fashion aspect of it, and it became so popular on TikTok and other, and YouTube and all of those, that the Star started making original content for us because it's gathered such momentum and resonated so much with Gen Z audiences that never in a million years would have searched for this show or would have been engaged with it or really cared about the storylines or anything like that. So we packaged it in a way that we really kind of just went all in on younger audiences, and it really paid dividends. Another one of that is Kitchen Nightmares. So we work with Gordon Ramsay and all of his, for want of a better expression, the Gordon-verse of all his different channels. And one of them is Kitchen Nightmares. And that YouTube channel is very, very meme-centric. Like, we have made compilations that, honestly, some of the comments are like, has this person gone insane? Like, it's very funny, but it's just so different from the original kind of tone of voice of when it was originally on air. But it's, there was a whole story about Chef Mike, who is a microwave that Gordon threw out of a window one episode, and it was just long, forlorn violin playing over the shots of the mic and microwave in the background. So, like, really kind of fun ways to play with it and repackage something in a new way. And find new audiences and people kind of engaging with it in a different way completely. So there are a few kind of examples of how we've managed to make archive stuff relevant. In terms of other success stories, I kind of mentioned earlier, New Dominion, which is a kind of true crime series, and the way in which we kind of package those with certain cases around states and certain crime stuff like that, our client said to us, it's like, we've reached a completely different audience. We've managed to completely sell the tapes to new territories that we've never kind of had success with before because of the success we've seen on social.
So you're saying that actually YouTube success internationally has actually helped linear sales and had a really big impact on...
Yeah, we've seen it like 4 or 5 times. One of them was in Italy, another kind of 90s sitcom where we ran not just the English language version, but Spanish and Italian language YouTube channels. And the success of the Italian language YouTube channel was then taken as a sales tactic from their international sales team to an Italian broadcaster, and they bought it. So it was one of those that's been a fantastic one. Another one was a kids show that we were doing 14 different languages. The South Korean one absolutely blew up and was much more successful than they expected. And as a result, they used that as part of the negotiation for when they resold in South Korea, because they knew actually this was far bigger than they were led to believe. So whilst most of the time the YouTube strategy is dedicated to how do we build the audience there, it is something that can be utilised and weaponised for international sales.
Yeah, interesting. James, thank you so much for coming on Telecast. It was really fascinating, and we're going to be speaking to a number of your colleagues over the next few weeks with some really more in-depth practical tips of how to succeed on YouTube. If you could leave us with one tip for that reticent TV producer who's got that great catalogue and he's wondering about, does he have the skills, or, how he or she might enter the world of YouTube, what would your tip be?
I would say embrace it and experiment. There's you're not going to learn anything by being too cautious and not doing anything. I think even just throwing yourself into it and trying to see if you can build a channel or if you can reach an audience, you'd be amazed at what's out there, because quite a lot of what we've found was just through experimentation and evolution. Like, we've been doing it for 12 years, so we're quite well versed in it. But when we started out, we didn't really know what we were doing. We did it by kind of let's just experiment, let's try it out, and learning from those successes. The success like we see in the FA will inform our strategy for a kids title, which will inform our strategy for a chat show. So like all of these things, they feed into each other, but we do it by experimenting and really playing with it. And I think one of the other things about it is it's really fun. Like it's actually a really fun platform.
It is. I have to agree that YouTube Studio is the most addictive thing that I've been on in the internet, because you can get, I mean, it sounds really nerdy, but you can get really obsessive about it. But when you start to change things like your thumbnails or your tags, and you actually see an immediate uplift, it's like, oh God, I've got to go across all of my videos now and do the same thing. So it is super, it's super rewarding when you see the little tweaks and changes that you can make and how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things is it's like you can just find your tone of voice and be authentic. Like, whilst I was talking earlier about some of them being like memey and aiming for Gen Z, doesn't suit everyone. Like we've got other channels where we're, the average viewer age is plus 65, and it's like, understand your audience, be authentic to your tone of voice, and just have fun with it, really.
And it reminds me of when I first spoke to Sam Barcroft years ago, and Sam was actually originally using YouTube as a shop window for normal content licensing, and he found that the content that he was actually placing on YouTube was blowing up and going incredibly viral. So it's still about test and learn, isn't it? It's still about, seeing how audiences are reacting, and that might take you in different directions when you see the opportunity present itself.
Yeah, and I do think that like the best, the kind of recommendation around best practices won't be the same recommendation for best practices in 6 months' time. The algorithm changes, audience behaviors change, trends change, tastes change. It's a constantly evolving platform, which both is challenging, but also the fun of it. Like stuff evolves and viral things happen, and they create trends and create behaviors, and just kind of embrace it, kind of keep your finger on the pulse, see what's happening. And also if something blows up, well, then investigate why, find out why, lean into it, find out what kind of, it shouldn't just be a potluck, like investigate it, figure out what the success is, and replicate it.
Telecast.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby, and welcome to another telecast. For more videos on YouTube for TV and content production, just hit subscribe in the button below. How do you get noticed and build an audience on YouTube? How do you master optimization and get the powerful algorithms working for you to get your content discovered on the platform? Well, here to answer all that and more, we have Graham Swallow, Head of Data and Product Strategy at Little Dot Studios, with a list of 10 quick tips and tricks from thumbnail design to metadata and search engine optimization to help surface your content, be it library or new original content on YouTube. Welcome to the show, Graham.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you on the show. Really looking forward to getting into the detail of this. And we had James Loveridge on the show a couple of weeks ago, where we were just talking about the overall approach to YouTube for TV producers. We're going to get more into the weeds of it here, so with some real practical tips. I'm looking forward to doing that. So first of all, tell us about your role at Little Dot Studios. What is you do and who you do it for?
So I've been at Little Dot Studios for three and a half years. So joined during the pandemic. My role is three things in the job title: data, product, and technology. Generally bringing the tech and the data together to build products that both service our internal stakeholders as well as our clients to optimize performance across the massive amount of content that we own and distribute on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So just a small brief, really.
Yeah. Well, give us an idea of that then. How many channels and clients you're working across? Just a sort of broad brushstroke.
Okay, so the big numbers. I think we manage around 700 channels. It changes week to week, so a fair few. We deliver on average 8 to 10 billion views every month across not just YouTube, but other social video platforms. We receive around 250 million rows of data every 24 hours, which is what the tech part of my job is about. So yeah, we're huge in scale, probably one of the biggest globally in terms of what we do.
Right. Okay. So you're the right man to tell us how to get your optimization right on YouTube. Okay. Brilliant. Well, so we've got a bit of a list, a top 10 list, not necessarily in order of importance, but a top 10 list all the same. Before we go into that, tell us why optimization matters so much then.
Oh, wow. I mean, these are platforms that are in service to their viewers, and the viewers are telling the platforms every minute of every single day with their viewing choices what it is that they want to see. And we can pick up on those signals. So unlike a traditional media environment where you kind of have to go on gut or instinct or an idea and hope it works, we can see within minutes, hours of uploading a video, and so can anyone else, how well that's performing, how many people are watching it, how long they're watching it for. So I would almost put it back the other way and say ignoring that opportunity would be madness. So optimization is the absolute minimum that you would be doing on YouTube and other social media platforms, because usually you are trying to reach more viewers, convert more people to your channel, sell more things, and make more money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is a new skill set that TV producers really are used to being business to business, in the business to business sales funnel, if you like, and making a show for a broadcaster. The broadcaster has to worry about getting the audience, but obviously it's in everybody's interest for it to be successful. They'll get a new commission. Commissioning isn't happening a lot at the moment, so therefore the skills that a TV producer needs, and all the data that they need to understand and use and optimize essentially to make their own content surface is so much more important. It's just a real skill set that everybody needs to get to grips with if they're going to publish on YouTube. So so let's kick off with the first tip out of our top 10. What's the number 10?
Number 10. So it's learning something from every upload, either from your fans or how it performed for every upload that you do, really from day one until day forever, because you will learn something about either the way you produce that content, when it was uploaded, how it was uploaded, the thumbnail that was attached. So every single time you do something, there will be some metrics to inform you in your decision making for the next video, something you could do a little bit differently or expand on or minimize if your viewers are telling you that they don't like it. So I think that's kind of, it sounds like hopelessly generic, right? Or just learn something from everything you do. But I think it's true. And I think we sometimes forget that too. We might have produced 5,000 pieces of content for a channel, but that doesn't mean that we stop learning about the 5,001st content that we put up.
Yeah, well, it's also it's things that you can actually affect yourself, but sometimes it's external trends that are developing, isn't it? I mean, an example of that is we interviewed Patrick Spence for Telecast a few weeks ago, talking about Mr. Bates versus the post office. That was one of our first videos, and literally in the last 2 weeks, the views have just shot up because it's on in the States. PBS is showing the show in the States, and it's become a real talking point. But it's also, that's an external factor, but also it's about hashtags that you're using, maybe tweaking your title, for example, and making sure that is ever optimized. And you can do that, can't you? You can do that all the time. The number of titles that you have for that one video, you can change it as often as you want, right?
No one's ever going to punish you for it. YouTube isn't going to say, "Oh, you've changed the title 3 times. We're going to strike you down for the 4th." It's you can mess with it as much as you like. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And there is a particular skill set, I think, with titles, writing the right title. It's not just about it being descriptive. This is what is in this video. It needs to grab the attention of the viewer, doesn't it? And it needs to work in tandem with the thumbnail, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about. But okay.
So we're just actually on titles. We're just embarking this week on a test where we are asking ChatGPT to suggest titles for videos that we've already published, and we're going to use a particular method of machine learning to keep optimizing against those suggested titles to see if there's improvements. And we're being fairly conservative. We're not pulling radical ideas from the sky, so we're avoiding some of the hallucinations that AI is perhaps capable of. But we're really testing that theory to the absolute max, that potentially there is a best title, and we're going to scale that across thousands of videos.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm going to try this out with this video when we get that published, and we're going to try various different titles in the weeks following its publication and see which one's working best. But there is a definite skill set. I mean, is there one tip that you could give when you talk about titles as to what is the optimal title? If you're coming up with that now, forget ChatGPT and what that's going to suggest. But if you say one rule of thumb when you think about what your title should be,
say what it is. Your users are people like you and I, surprisingly enough, who are looking for videos to watch and want to know what is in that video. So tell them. I think that's the most straightforward. There are occasions where you see videos that are clearly trying to hop on trends. They're using stuff that is out there in the market just for clicks, but people very quickly will move away from your video if it isn't what you think it or what they think it should be. So look at the piece of content, think about what it is, condense that down into a catchy title.
Okay. And it doesn't need to be clickbait. It just needs to attract the opposite clickbait. Okay. Brilliant.
I don't know what the opposite of clickbait is.
No. Well, we need to coin a new phrase for that by the end of the show. Let's have a go. All right. Number 9.
Number 9. So it's probably the dullest sounding topic, particularly if you're from the creative world, metadata, which, I mean, even I can't stand the term. It's so dull. But it refers to the stuff that isn't video that is attached to the video. We talked a bit about the title, but there are also the description for your video would be classed as metadata, the thumbnail, but there are also tags that aren't visible to the user but help tell YouTube what your video is, and hashtags that are a way of navigating common video themes if you add them. So that's metadata. And what I would say is make an effort with it. Don't ignore it. Spend the time to make sure that the tags are relevant to the content, that the title is relevant, that the thumbnail gives an image of what the user audience should expect from the video itself. The description, you've got quite a lot of space. Add more words, not less. Use the metadata.
Yeah, and it's often the kind of the most boring part of it, I suppose, if you're a creative, when you're actually about to publish a video, because you've got crafted this brilliant video, you're really excited to share it. But as you say, there's loads of fields of information in YouTube Studio for you to fill in and help surface this content. And, there are hundreds of character spaces that you can put in there. So it's about making use of that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you are completely right. Yes, when you've done the creative stuff of making the video and all those decisions that go into it, and the thumbnail arguably as well, which is, a hugely creative area, the last thing you want to be then starting to do is thinking about, well, okay, it's a video and it's Gordon Ramsay, but what's he cooking? Oh, it's fried eggs and bacon. And where's he cooking it? Oh, it's in his home. So we want to make sure we capture those elements of the video. It just feels mundane. And there's certainly you can go out there and search on the internet. You will see many, many people who say that tags don't matter. YouTube themselves say, it would be useful if you put them, but we're not going to punish you if you don't, or not in so many words. But we've been running quite an interesting experiment over the first few months of this year, where we've put literally thousands of videos into one group, which we are leaving the tags as they are, never changing them, whether they are good, bad, or indifferent. And then we've got another 1,000 where, using a combination of AI and machine learning, we are optimizing those tags. Every 7 days, we can choose whether we optimize to a different set of tags or change some of them or change all of them. And the model will consistently do this every week and every week and every week. And over the course of now 3.5 months. We've got about 20,000 videos in the experiment, so we believe it to be a pretty representative sample. The videos that are having tags optimized, remember this is just the invisible to the user tags that go into each video. When they are optimized, we see around, well, depending on the channel, anywhere between 10 and 30% more views from search for that content, which, first of all, disproves, finally, that tags don't matter. They clearly do. And it also tells us that YouTube needs information to know what to show people. Okay, if I'm searching for how to fry an egg, then probably it makes sense that your tags include reference to the fact you're showing people how to fry an egg, because that makes it easy for YouTube to say, show the individual this video, and also the individual knows that the video they're seeing is relevant to the search that they've just made. So we will be very quickly moving all of our content into this mechanism.
Right. Okay. And so, for an example of frying an egg, how to fry an egg. So, being very clear, this is not hashtags we're talking about. This is tags.
Yes.
So this is, as you say, it's a field within YouTube Studio that you can fill in information that is not only regarding that subject, but perhaps connected to that subject as well. So, for how to fry an egg, you might say frying pan. You might actually have egg recipe. You might have
kitchen basics.
So it's actually, it's like throwing a net out, isn't it, essentially, over your content to think, what is possibly relevant to my content that is going to surface this with the widest possible people. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Tags. So tags do matter.
They do matter.
All right. Good. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I've been spending hours. You have 500 characters in that box, so use them. Okay, brilliant. Number 8.
So number 8 was a bit of a pivot away from things you don't see to things you really do see. I mean, some of your guests have talked about this on previous podcasts, but YouTube is the dominant platform in the living room. Okay, in the US, there are more hours of streaming on YouTube than any other service. In the UK, I think YouTube is set to overtake Netflix this year if the lines continue in the way they are. And so if I'm producing content that I think is going to be viewed at least to a large minority, potentially a majority at home, what does it look like on a 50-inch TV rather than on my monitor on my desk or on my smartphone? I want to see that thumbnail blown up to 50 inches. I want to know how much of my title is visible. Is there any element of the description is visible? Do I have some branding that works in a home environment? So these aren't really answers. These are tips to say, okay, if you want people to navigate to your content, then make it easy for them to do that in an environment where you are probably likely to get the longest watch times, the most repeat viewing, and if you're monetizing your content, then the largest amounts of revenue.
So I found this really tricky to do when I was actually setting up telecasts. So it's about creating some artwork that is going to work on a mobile phone, which is also going to work on an iPad, which is also going to work on a 50-inch TV screen.
Yeah.
And there are guidelines that YouTube does kind of give you, and it's like, this is how it's going to look when you upload your artwork. But it's really tricky to master this, actually. And I wasted hours doing it. What I've got at the moment isn't great, but it's kind of all right. But I do need to work on that more. So let's not think about YouTube as purely for iPad or purely for your mobile. Really think first and foremost about the TV in the corner of your room and how you're optimizing for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if I was a betting man, I would probably say that it's highly likely that YouTube are going to, first of all, relaunch their smart TV, connected TV experience, whether that be through app design or internal mechanics to surface certain types of content with different assets. Whether it's this year or within the next 2 or 3 years, I imagine we're probably likely to have the option to upload your smart TV thumbnail, your mobile thumbnail, and your everything else thumbnail, or different reses of individual imagery, potentially different titles that are used for different devices so that you are optimized for that experience. At the moment, as you say, it's hard because you have one asset, one thumbnail, one title, one description, and that is going to be shared across all of those devices that clearly have very different navigational kind of experiences for the audience. So I think we're probably going to see YouTube help us out with that.
All right. Okay. So kind of think about more about YouTube as long form, as TV, as opposed to it being purely mobile, which again is something that I think is a bit of a myth that still exists within the TV industry. People say, oh, YouTube, immediately think short form. So that's obviously it is an element of it, but by no means the only element.
Yeah. So just on that, just a data point that I think will probably nail that once and for all. I'll maybe turn it around to you. So 3.5 years ago, 2020. Sorry, I'll rewind a tiny bit. Across any channel that you manage, you can see what users watch after they have watched your content, and also what they were watching before they watched your content. And quite often that's stuff that isn't on your channel or any channel that you own or manage or have any access to, but you do get the video title. So what we did was looked at the top 500 suggested videos across our entire portfolio, right? A huge amount of channels. So not biased in any particular direction. We have clients big and small. And the average length of a video suggested by YouTube was 15 minutes. Do you want to guess what that was in 2023?
In 2023, 20 minutes?
92.
92.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So the audience is asking for, and YouTube is providing them with, longer and longer content, and people are watching it. This is not a 10 or 15 minute clip service, if you want to call it that. This is very, very different to that. This is lean back, long duration viewing.
Right. Okay. 90 minutes. Wow. Okay. That's a good metric to remember. Okay. Next tip.
I mean, I thought this was going to be the first time we'd mention AI, but it seems it's already come up a couple of times. So I would try and use AI to help in lots of different ways. This isn't a specific tip. So we've already said it can help you suggest titles for your video, and some of them are very good, and you can test them to see how good they are. You can also use AI to do things that maybe you just don't have the skill set to do. I use it to do things that I don't have the skill set to do. I'm not a data scientist, for example, and I've taken large lists of YouTube videos and asked ChatGPT to go and tell me what the genres and topics are in those videos, and then to cluster those topics so I can see if there's any patterns of people watching for longer videos that talk about certain themes, or if there are any maybe groups that we can spot which might indicate that there are certain audiences that are interested in different elements within a particular piece of IP. And that's really sophisticated statistical analysis put in the hands of an idiot like me, and I'm probably misusing it. And all the data scientists, including the ones that I work with, have shaken their head in dismay at the fact that I'm doing this. But it can really help to speed up what you can learn about the audience that you're trying to serve with your content, or what's working on your channel, when maybe you don't have the best Excel skills or the best statistical skills, or maybe the best creative skills if you come from that side. So yeah, I'd just say look at AI as your assistant to fill in the gaps.
And you're talking about ChatGPT specifically?
I am in this instance, yeah. I mean, we use Midjourney as well for image generation, but I mean, there's now a number of different challenges to ChatGPT that have broadly similar skill sets. Yeah, we just we've picked ChatGPT, and that's who we're using predominantly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just interested to know, what data ChatGPT has been trained on to be able to give you great title suggestions and great tag suggestions, but presumably it's the general internet, and that includes Google and YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we'll prompt it. So we'll say, here's our title for the video. Here's what's in it. Maybe the title and description, and say, can you suggest 20 other video titles? And please follow this format. And also, don't be too crazy with your suggestions. And it kind of listens. We're doing this through the API, so that it's coding those instructions, and it will come back with your list of 20. Sometimes it just does 19 or 22, just because AI and it does that. So we're providing the context it needs. It's using its language model to work with that context and suggest different outputs.
So with different titles then, how many typically will you try on a video? So for example, it gives you 20. So maybe you say, okay, we're going to try 5. Might you change a title every week and to see how that performs? Because the other thing is, I imagine, don't switch too many bits of data at the same time, because you might not know what's necessarily working. Don't change your tags at the same time you're going to change your title, right?
Yes. So I'll try and answer this more from what you can do if you don't have a data science team at your disposal, which I'm lucky enough to have. So in that sense, I would be doing it just manually, right? I would look and see, maybe for a week, 2 weeks, change to a different title, get a sense of, is there a better view through rate, maybe view retentions changing slightly, or some metrics that you might think might be linked. What we're doing to try and do this at scale is we are giving the model a goal, which is to maximize watch time, and it will change the title no more than once a week in order to decide what the best title is according to all the metrics that it can crunch.
Okay, so roughly give it a week.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, tip number 6.
Tip number 6. I've definitely been guilty of this, so I'll put myself in this category, but try not to get lost chasing some vanity metric. We've talked about views, we've talked about watch time, we'll have talked about subscribers or engagements or shares, comments, all of the kind of vomit of numbers and data that comes out of any channel, and YouTube is no different. But I would say just be laser focused on what you are trying to achieve with that channel, and try to ignore all the other noise around it. So if you are trying to grow a channel, then reach probably is quite important, because you are trying to get not just views but unique viewers, maybe grow the subscriber base. If it's about monetization, well then stick with revenue as your goal. And quite often, lots of views don't necessarily mean lots of revenue if they are viewing the wrong type of thing. So that's kind of what I would say, and try to avoid. And I know it's difficult because we'll be asked by other colleagues or management or whatever to show how well this strategy is doing, and maybe you're not quite hitting the revenue target, but your views are really 200% growth. That's going to look good on a chart. So I'm going to show that. So I would just kind of try and think twice about what happens when you dive into that kind of world of just showing the big number, because the reality is it's not the big number that tells you whether your channel is successful. It's the number that matters. Right.
Okay. So if we're talking about revenue, then first of all, is that watch time? Is that the greatest metric that you should be concerned about if it's revenue generation?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Brilliant. Yeah. Simple answer. That's fantastic. Okay. Let's go on to tip number 5, Graham.
So you could probably link the last tip with this one, which is particularly with YouTube, it takes time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It might not happen in 6 months. It might take a year of slowly developing and growing. And you'll hit certain milestones as you go. But particularly if you are starting a channel from scratch, even with an existing IP that has really good brand knowledge, like a TV show popular in the 90s, for argument's sake, and you are launching a YouTube channel, you've got access to hundreds of hours of content, you can do whatever you like with it. It's still going to take time to build the audience and I hate the term, but the brand around the reliability of the quality of your content that will keep people coming back to it. And I think that's surprising. I think we expect well, I just put it up there, I'll get 1 million views, and then the next one will get 10 million, and we'll all be, seeing the dollar signs. But in actual fact, it can take 6 to 12 months to really grow a channel from a standing start to meaningful delivery.
So you saying that YouTube rewards you for consistency in that case? For example, if you're going to publish once a week for 52 weeks in a row, then you will at that point, and obviously optimize everything as you go, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be much more successful if you're consistent and publishing at the same time every week, rather than, like you say, sticking a video up, more sporadically and expecting that to see growth just on the back of the fact that it's, I don't know, California Highway Patrol episode 3. It's about nurturing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. We a few years ago we had a kind of a methodology. We called it the Digital Connection Score, that was about trying to capture all the essence of growing a footprint across social media. It wasn't just YouTube, and we had Sow, Nourish and Grow, and the nourish element was regular posting. And I would kind of caution against thinking about YouTube and think more about people. Right? It's people who are watching the content, and are they likely to want to binge 20 hours of California Highway Patrol?
Chips, yeah.
Possibly.
I don't know why I came out with that. Sorry, but it just, Eric Estrada just came into my head. Sorry.
Or maybe just having that interest tweet, and they'll get a few hours here and there. Maybe I'll just dip in and watch a little bit more and watch a little bit more. We don't always want to binge. And when we are talking about the platform, they will kind of study recency as a bit of a flag for, okay, well, nobody's seen this, or few people have seen this because it's only just been uploaded. So we'll test this out with some of our audience. So there is a bit of a recency thing. So you're going to share your content in a regular way. And I think it's expectation. It's audience expectation. This channel is live, it's good quality, there's going to be new stuff 3 times a week, once a week, whatever the cadence is.
All right. Brilliant. Okay, tip number 4.
So this is about thumbnails. And we talked a bit about thumbnails sort of in a roundabout way. And I think for those who are interested in YouTube, Mr. Beast potentially is guilty of making people think that they need to produce 30, I think, thumbnails for every video was what he said. But also Mr. Beast is a company of 40 people, and several of those are making thumbnails for every video. I would be less about optimizing, testing, delivering loads, and being more creatively led about what is it that your thumbnail is going to tell the user about your content. You might want a consistent brand. If it's a show IP, make sure you show that clearly, visually, simply, so that the user, when they're looking at 100 different thumbnails on the screen or whatever it is, they know that this is from that show, and it's from the official channel for that show, and it's going to be good, and it's about this character, or it's about this scene from this show. So just be really clear about what it is you're informing the user through the thumbnail, and then be consistent. So stick with it, because those little triggers in users' mind, and people will remember, oh yeah, I watched a video with that kind of branding before, it's really good. I'll watch this one instead of that one. And that's really what you're trying to do, is you're kind of saying, okay, well, you've got these choices. This is the one that you want to click and view versus these others. And there's some really good examples. I'd urge people to go and look at maybe the FX YouTube channel and look at the way they have visually differentiated between the different shows that they produce, and also how clear the show branding is on some of them. If you look at, and they've got Fargo, they've got Shogun, they've got a couple of other, and they're really, really different in terms of brand identity and show identity. So you know what you're navigating to on the page, and they're just visually appealing, right? They just look nice, and people like nice things. So
yeah, and it's psychology, isn't it? It's you're going to click on something that looks nicer than, the 20 other slightly dodgier thumbnails that it's served up against. So and presumably once you focus in on that thumbnail, then that's when the title becomes super important as well, doesn't it? When the two are working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I will say is, just don't be obsessive about the numbers. So you can see the click-through rate or the view-through rate. So every time your thumbnail is shown to somebody, that tracks an impression. And then if somebody then clicks to view that video, then you've got the view, and YouTube will give you the view-through rate. And we see wild differences between content, 10 or 20 times different, sometimes even on the same channel. And I would just caution against becoming obsessed with that particular metric. We mentioned clickbait right at the start. You want people to click on your thumbnail because it is the thing that they want to watch, not because of the thumbnail in and of itself, because we just said earlier as well, watch time equals revenue. So just clicks are worthless. It's views that are worth the money and the effort. So give people what they are looking for.
Okay, so it's also about expectation management, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's attracting people, but then delivering on that click.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, number 3. We're up to the top 3.
We are. So this is very YouTube, and this probably will speak to a lot of your audience. It seems simple, but YouTube offers tons and tons of different features. At its most basic, upload a video, that's it. But there are so many different ways to create content, engage with the users on the platform, use different features of the platform, multi-language, captions, long descriptions, hashtags for navigation, tags we've talked about, but also playlists can be very important for certain people. Are you doing live streams? They're not really talked about. People think of live streams for sport, but anyone can use live streams, and YouTube treats live streams quite differently in terms of the way they surface it to users. And there are probably 30 to 35 different individual areas on a YouTube channel that you can optimize. Not saying that you definitely should do, but that offer an opportunity for you to look at, engage, and maybe improve on your channel as it grows.
So, for example, the community tab is somewhere you can post an image, and I do that of just about every show, and we'll do that for this show together with you, Graham. If I get feedback and likes, does that signal to YouTube that sends a positive message to YouTube? The fact that the community is interacting with that content in a positive way?
Maybe it does, but it signals to you that the audience have liked it, and that the more you do that, then hopefully the more the audience will also respond to that. So what you're doing is you are forming a relationship with the audience that in broadcast simply doesn't exist, right? You just distribute the content and that's it. You maybe Barb tells you how many people watched it. That's it. This is about building a healthy relationship and really telling users that you care. They are kind of telling YouTube that they feel that by watching more content and engaging more with the channel. So again, it's YouTube, or the algorithm that operates on YouTube is sort of like the amplifier of those effects, but it doesn't create them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is an element of both, but really it's about the audience.
Nurture your audience. Don't worry too much about the algorithm, because that will follow, right? If it's getting positive feedback from your community and it's building, YouTube will take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number two.
Okay, so this is quite an interesting one. So this is about making sure not just that you use all the features of YouTube per se, but that you are delivering content of different lengths that different people are looking for. Everyone is different. Not everybody wants to watch a 3-hour marathon of all the episodes from Chips, maybe. Let's stick with the example. Some of them might just want to watch the funniest bits from season 1, or all the times that the motorbikes crashed or something. I don't know. There are shorts. There's maybe just single episodes. There are maybe double episodes. So and there's no upper limit, right? You can put a 6-hour video up on your YouTube channel if you want to, and there will undoubtedly be some people who'll watch it. Some of them all the way through. So this is about making sure that you balance what people want to watch with, finally, the metric that you're trying to achieve. So if your goal is absolute views, then probably shorts and short clips are going to deliver the volume, but that's not necessarily going to translate into watch time. You have to watch an awful lot of 30-second shorts to get to the same as a 2-hour marathon. So if you're looking more for watch time and revenue, then putting double episodes, triple episodes, full series sometimes will help to service that need. And so it doesn't. There may be some people thinking, well, I've only got access to clip content. Like contractually, I can't put full episodes up. Well, that's fine. You can make clips, and you can put lots of clips together to make a 30-minute episode or 30-minute video. Or the reverse. I've only got a full library of full-length episodes. This sounds like loads of work. Well, yes, but you can slowly start to feed in the 15-minute clips. It will become evident if you nurture your community, what their favorite elements of your show are, things that they maybe want to see all in one go, favorite characters, favorite moments, all of that sort of stuff. And you can start to cherry pick the elements that you want to put in those snackable pieces of content.
So talking about multi-episode episodes, if you like, or multi-episode clips, what's the longest YouTube video that you can actually publish?
Oh, I feel like I don't know the answer to that question.
Right. Okay.
I'm sure there must be an upper limit.
I might try all of our YouTube videos together and see if we can get a 100-hour video going up. All right, and then number 1, Graham.
Number 1, again, I think this is really important, and probably this has been lost on some of my colleagues as well, is think about the audience, not the algorithm. The YouTube algorithm is not Dr. Evil in a room with levers. It's not lots of Dr. Evils with lots of levers. The algorithm isn't deciding whether your content is going to be successful or not. The algorithm isn't the algorithm. It's a series of multiple different functions that are aiming to deliver certain outcomes within the YouTube platform. Some to do with viewing, some to do with safety, some to do with showing people content they haven't seen. All of the different ways in which YouTube optimizes itself. But YouTube itself is focusing on watch time, numbers of hours watched. It wants people to stay on the platform longer, like all the platforms do, really. They just want people to stick with them rather than with others, for the obvious reason that they get to see more ads. So I would try and avoid this, and it comes into quite a few of the elements, right? The thumbnails, the titles. You can obsess about the click-through rate on the thumbnails, or how many people are seeing my video because of the tags. It's not the algorithm that's giving you that information. It's the people that are out there searching for content, searching for something to watch. What the algorithm is doing is seeing something that works and then powering that up to see how much it will work. So maybe this video has proven popular in the last week. I'm going to try it with this new audience, have a look if that was successful, still getting more viewing. Fine, I'll try it with this new audience, and it will keep doing that until it reaches a certain point, and then presumably it will start to roll back again. And so really that's what I would say. We make TV for people. We don't make TV for the TV set. And so we're making video content for people to watch and enjoy and come back and watch again. And that's what I think you should stay true to, rather than, wow, the algorithm is doing this and the algorithm is doing that. And so I heard somebody say that if you tweak this thing here, it would make you get an extra 50% of viewing. Well, no, it's not. It's the audience that are going to decide whether they're going to watch your stuff or not.
Telecast.
Hi, Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another telecast. What IP and genres perform the best on YouTube? When's the best time to post new content and does it matter? And how do you reach your target audience with your content? Well, here to answer all that and more besides, we have Ali Penelope with some more strategy tips for broadcasters and studios from our friends at Little Dot Studios. They're one of the world's biggest YouTube channel specialists, running over 700 channels for some of the biggest sports and entertainment brands in the world. Welcome to Telecast, Ali.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Thank you for being here. And it's been great. The last few weeks we've had James Loveridge on the show from Little Dot Studios, and he talked to us about YouTube strategies for TV producers. And then we've also had Graham Swallow, who was talking us through a little bit more detail about optimisation tips and metadata and all that stuff. So we got really into the detail of that a few weeks ago. So we're going to be talking about multi-channel strategies for broadcasters, IP owners, studios, etc. Anybody who may have multiple channels on YouTube or may be thinking about putting their content out across multiple channels. So first of all, tell us about your role at Little Dot, what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a partnerships director. My boss is actually James Loveridge. So I work with him in our entertainment department on a number of different clients. So I know he mentioned the Graham Norton show. I work also with Hot Sauce, which does the Jonathan Ross show. But I also work with a number of studios and IP holders that employ that exact strategy we're going to talk about, where they're across multiple channels, multiple platforms, and how they can maximize that IP across those platforms.
Okay. And so you're working with big companies, but we're talking about big studios, aren't we?
Yes, big studios. We won't name names, but multiple IP and IP across different genre, IP that might be scripted or unscripted. So it kind of runs the gamut.
Okay, and they may be UK or they may be US based, who knows? But we can't talk about who they are in detail, but it's going to be brilliant to talk about the strategies that you're adopting and you're implementing from them as you manage all of their channels. So we've got 5 tips, right? Or you have 5 tips for us for multi-channel strategies for broadcasters, IP owners, and studios. So the first one we have here is called the pyramid approach. Now, tell us, Ali, what the pyramid approach is.
Yeah, so I don't want to confuse this with anything like a pyramid scheme. So I might just try to explain. So I think it depends on where you're kind of starting out, but let's assume that you already have all this great IP, but you're not exactly sure what's going to resonate with what kind of audiences, and you want to test and learn. So we'd recommend a marquee channel that sits at the top of the pyramid, whether that's your actual name of your company or whatever it might be. It could be a made-up brand, but it houses all the different IPs, and there you can test and learn. And you can start to get an understanding of what IPs are most popular, what genres might be most popular. And then from there, you can start to spin out your channels into the second and third layers of the pyramid. So the second layer would be genre-based. So there you could have, say, if it's film IP, it might be horror, it might be action, it might be Western, whatever it might be. It might be unscripted. It could be that simple. And then from there, you can really determine, okay, but what are the most important IPs? What are the specific shows that are resonating with people and have a big audience? And then you can kind of spin out that third and final bottom of the pyramid and make show-specific channels. Now, I think I did say this is sort of like a pyramid, but you could also think about it like a wheel, let's say. So perhaps you have that big marquee channel right at the center, and then you can kind of build spokes off that wheel. Some might be bigger than others. Some might be have greater revenue potential than others. But I think the key thing here is that test and learn approach. You might find that down the line, some channels long term don't work, and you want to dormant them and pivot in a different direction. But I think that's another key that we'll talk about in a little bit, is experimenting as well.
So imagine I am a big Hollywood studio and I'm monetizing my content, through the regular ways that channels do. So it may be, theatrical. They may have SVOD windows and all the other windows that they have. They may also be employing fast channels as well. So typically the clients that you have, they are looking presumably at YouTube for, as opposed to brand recognition, it's about driving revenue, right?
Sure. I think that's really another important part, is what the core KPI is going to be. Yes, most of the time it's going to be revenue. But it might be brand awareness. It might be just audience generation or just trying to discover which type of audiences you might have. But typically it is revenue generative. So that also can inform the type of strategy that we employ. I know James spoke about it previously, but being able to lean into long form across your network is also incredibly important and lucrative for revenue generation. And
in your experience, then, are a lot of these major studios they're curious, presumably, about YouTube, and you must be, when you first speaking to them, you must be able to give them a bit of an idea about what sort of revenue they can generate, or give them projections. Surely that must be part of the initial process when you're speaking to them.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how present they already are on the platform. I think most people are on YouTube in some capacity now, and I also think, I've been with Little Dot now for 7 years, and when I first started this journey, a lot of broadcasters, a lot of studios did not want to be on the platform. They were worried about it cannibalizing linear views, theatrical views, etc. And I think the mindset has really shifted towards, it's a different space, it's a different location, and it also can be a completely different lucrative revenue stream for us. So in most cases, there's already some, visibility on the platform in some capacity. But what we can help with is identifying, your audiences more specifically. So something we do, because we do digital rights management at Little Dot, is we're able to do what we call like a UGC traffic light. So we'll go out across the entire YouTube platform and we'll get a look at what UGC is being uploaded and just user-generated content. What from this rights holder's IP catalog is actually most popular.
And what's already out there
exactly
that's been kind of illegally uploaded.
Exactly.
Right?
That can be a huge indicator of which direction you should go in, because the people clearly want it. It's already up there, but they, might not be claiming it. They might not be making any revenue off of it. So that's a good place for us to start, is a traffic light document where we can determine, here's the things you should start with, here's the things you should lead with, because there's already huge viewing for those IP.
All right. Okay. So let's say we're that big studio that's moving into YouTube. It may have had one or two of its IP on channels already, but perhaps not really delivering what it expected to. The way you're approaching this is obviously the optimization tips that Graham talked to us about, really drilling down to those tips and actually experimenting and testing and learning, seeing what, and essentially taking it to the audience, mm-hmm. to the direct audience through metadata and what have you. So how long does that take then? So for example, I'm a big network. I have this amount of content, let's say, 1,000 hours. And I'm going to put that down onto YouTube as essentially, as you said, under one brand name channel. I'm going to start testing and learning across that. How long is it after you've optimized all of that content? How long will it take for you to really get some meaningful insights into, informing your strategy going forward?
Mm-hmm. It depends. But what I would say is, don't expect overnight success. I think YouTube is a mid to long-term game. And to really develop an audience, you have to have content actually uploaded onto your channel, well optimized, as you say. And then it's about the little tweaks, the little levers that you're pulling. And it can take up to 12 to 18 months to really grow a mature YouTube audience. I'm not saying it could take that long to necessarily spin off. You might start to see some IPs that are really popping that indicate to you, okay, this could deserve its own channel, or actually we could spin off and do this genre channel with a few of these different IPs that are in the, say, sitcom genre. But I think people think about YouTube as, I think because TikTok now or similar platforms, you can see success in such a short amount of time. But YouTube really can be a little bit of a longer game.
Yeah. And now let's not forget that YouTube is on TVs is hugely, becoming hugely popular, more so than Netflix. We've talked about that as a streaming platform. So let's talk about your second tip then. So using a marquee channel to test and learn to determine when to launch and expand that network. Talk us through that.
Yeah. So, let's say you have 50 IP, and you obviously want to put out as much of them as possible on the marquee channel, but you still, you have to be mindful of how you're curating it. And then at some point, you might start to recognize that one IP or another IP are starting to take off. And I think you just want to be mindful of the specific genres. So let's say you have 2 to 3 sitcom IPs that are really taking off. That might indicate that you could create a genre specifically for sitcoms. Or let's say it's specific type of sitcom, female-led sitcom, or 90s nostalgia sitcom, or what have you. And then you could spin off into that genre. And then from there, it might even be, okay, this one particular IP seems to have a really dedicated audience. We're going to spin off from that genre into a specific IP channel. And the timeline on that really depends. It could be anywhere, again, from like 3 all the way up to 18 months, depending on how popular your IP is to begin with, depending on how much of that IP you might have. Because another thing to think about is, do you have enough IP in a specific genre or a specific show to actually have a channel long-term, because you need to have enough content to sustain it.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. And I think also, especially for rights holders who might have a smaller catalog, these genre hubs, this marquee hub is actually a great place where they can house programs that might only have, say, 5 or 6 episodes in a series amongst other shows like them, and give them an opportunity to thrive on the platform.
Well, can you give us an indication then of how many hours you need for a channel then?
For a channel itself, for a single channel, I would say probably, I mean, as much as you can get, definitely, but a minimum of, say, 50 hours.
Okay.
Because you really want to be able to nourish the algorithm, nourish the channel with consistent uploading. And if you're not able to do that, your channel's probably not going to succeed long-term in the algorithm. And you could get creative, of course. There's clipping, there's full-length episodic content, there's compilations, there's shorts, there's live streaming. There's lots of ways to maximize your IP, no matter how big the catalog might be. But it's definitely something to be mindful of. If it's smaller, think before launching a channel for a show that only has 6 episodes. You know, that's not sustainable. Maybe it needs to sit with a genre hub of detective shows or what have you.
And how would you know then to make that decision? Because I think let's just follow that for a second. So I've got a particular show which I have 100 hours for example, let's say, and it's performing well within my overall channel brand, and I decide maybe it is time to spin it off onto its own channel. What will determine that? Not only obviously the number of hours you've got, but is it watch time, or is it the number of subscribers that it's driving to the main channel? What is it, the key metric that you decide, okay, we should launch our own channel now?
Sure. I think, again, it's going to be dependent upon KPI, but primarily, in most cases, it will be watch time. Is it driving watch time? And is it driving revenue? Again, you might have a show that's hugely popular, but gets easily demonetized. So it just doesn't make sense to spin it off into its own channel. But I would say if it's monetizing well, if you have viewer retention, so you know people are not just clicking on it, but sticking around and watching it for a long time, views can be a good indication. Subscribers, not so much, because YouTube is a search engine and most of your viewership is going to be coming from non-subscribers anyway. So you're going to want to try to hit people who are looking for similar content on the platform. So I think it's a little bit art, it's a little bit science, because in terms of a benchmark to say at what number, is it 100 million views? Is it 100,000 hours? There isn't really that. I think it's going to be relative to the size of your, again, what you expect within your existing audience. But let's say maybe, gosh, I don't want to just pull a number out of the air, because I think it's going to be really relative. I think if you're seeing good traction for a sustained period of time on your marquee channel, you think there's growth, you think you have enough, then it's time to spin off.
Yeah, and you can also see how other similar channels are performing, so you get an idea of, what those forecasts for revenue might be in a year's time, for example, that will determine that as well.
Exactly. You could look at similar content on the platform and see how it's performing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's another good point to highlight, that it's not all about subscribers, right? It's and subscribers is becoming much less important. It's all about the watch time, isn't it? And how long people are sticking around on your channel and watching your content.
Yeah, subscribers are a nice vanity metric, as we call them. They get you a shiny button that you can hang on the wall. But in terms of actually bringing in the viewership and bringing in the revenue. It's going to be about non-subscribers because YouTube is a search engine at the end of the day. We think of it as a social media platform, and it kind of is, but really it is a search engine. It's driven by how well you optimize your content. And so that's why having a multi-channel strategy approach can be so lucrative, because you can have the same piece of content across multiple channels. So let's say you have a really popular IP, you host it on your marquee channel, you host it on the respective genre channel, maybe even multiple genre channels if you have a big enough network. And it also has its own IP channel. And it could be the same content or very similar content. You're optimizing it slightly differently. You're hitting completely different audiences, because how many people are watching YouTube? But how many people overlap between those audiences? Not a lot. And so actually, it's a much more lucrative way to get that IP out there and to reach all different kinds of audiences.
So there's two things there that are really interesting. So if you're duplicating content, so if your content lives on your main channel, and then you decide to start a sitcom channel, and you're also going to place your content on that sitcom channel, does YouTube understand that you've got two pieces of content that are the same? Because presumably you might be optimizing that new show or that same show on your new channel. You might be optimizing that in a slightly different way to target a different or more specific audience. Does that matter to YouTube at all?
YouTube doesn't mind if the actual video asset is the same. No. It's about how you optimize that content best. And it's also something to consider as well as part of the strategic approach is how and when you release that content. So you wouldn't want to release the same exact video across two channels, even if they have different optimizations on the same day, because you're just not doing yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Give that piece of content the best chance to thrive on the platform. Some people in the network team, because we employ this method with our owned and operated network, call it waterfalling, where we release a piece of content on one channel and then we have a window before we release it on another. Now, what that window looks like is something that we actively test and learn at Little Dot. We're always constantly analyzing the data to try to best understand what the optimal peak period is before you're able to publish something on another channel to get the maximum benefits and not cannibalize views. In general, we find it peaks at 30 days, but that can really vary from client to client. So again, it's something that we are able to investigate more deeply when we work with a client across multiple channels. Right.
Okay. So let's stick with this new channel that we've launched, this sitcom channel with 50 or 100 hours, for example. So this is not about putting all of that content out to begin with. It's like, let's optimize 50 different hours of video and then stick it up automatically at the same time. Is this about building a regular date where you go live, a particular time, as you say, which is really important, but maybe a particular day of the week as well, and start to build in some sort of viewer habits?
Yeah, I know that we've sort of spoken about how subscribers aren't as important, but I still think for the algorithm, that consistency and that same day, same time can be really important, because the algorithm will pick up on that. I don't recommend when you're launching a channel to dump like 50 hours worth of content there. I know it can be tempting because you think if people come to my channel and there's nothing there, that's also frustrating. But that's why I'm talking about the slow build, because if you suddenly dump 50 videos, none of them are going to do well.
No.
So it's about launching and strategically and consistently putting content out at the same time, the same day, ideally, although that's, again, something we test and learn and really depends on the audiences you're trying to reach. We say, this is a very general rule of thumb, but we tend to publish around 5 p.m. GMT because you can hit a North American audience, you hit the audience here and Western Europe. But that's, of course, if you're trying to target high RPM territories, English language territories. So it might vary depending on
so
your
high
audience.
RPM, tell us what you mean by
that. High revenue per mil. So it's revenue per 1,000 views on YouTube. And English language territories tend to yield a higher RPM, which therefore generates more revenue for a video because advertisers want to put their ads against English language speakers. So the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia all tend to be the territories where we see the most revenue generation for our clients.
Okay. And so we're talking about taking our, hopefully, our subscribers and our community and building that on a journey with maybe a weekly upload of a new show. Are we also talking about shorter form content to help promote every episode as well? Because obviously YouTube Shorts is there, and for clips under 1 minute, that can actually help generate interest in the main clip as well.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked about length and format yet, and how that can play into this approach. And again, it kind of depends on your KPIs, because as I know it's been mentioned, long form is king for revenue. The longer, the better. And again, that long form revenue can be duplicated across all of the channels in your network. And it's very good for also building an older viewership. People are watching on connected TVs. Older audiences tend to watch longer content on YouTube, whereas shorts they're the ones reaching the younger viewers, but terrible for revenue generation.
Yeah.
Really good for engagement, can actually be really good to drive subscribers to your channel. But if revenue is a key driver, you don't want to rely on a strategy that's heavy on shorts.
And I suppose nobody's watching shorts on TV, are they? They're mainly on your phone, right?
No, YouTube does have a feature now called related video, where when you're watching a short, you can push it to a longer form piece of content, although we haven't seen a lot of conversion with that yet. So kind of jury's still out on whether or not that's a useful strategy. But I will say that even for those clients where revenue is a priority, I do think there's value in shorts, because, I mean, shorts exist in their own feed, first and foremost. They're in the shorts feed on YouTube. As you say, people aren't watching them on TVs. They're going to be separate from other in-feed videos. And YouTube still pushes them in their algorithm. They want them to be successful. So I think a strategy that kind of straddles all of the different formats is actually most beneficial. But I would, again, lean into long form and longer form pieces of content if revenue is the key driver.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about launching every week around about the same time, just to build that habit and that viewing habit, and send out messages to the YouTube algorithm that, you know, there's new fresh content coming every week, which is something that it likes. Okay. So how about the next tip? So that tip was about, don't be afraid to duplicate content, right? Because that we can use same content on our hub channel, but also on our original new channel as well. So it takes time is your fourth tip, which you've mentioned already. So it's the long game, isn't it, that we're playing here?
It is the long game. And I think that can be a frustrating thing for some people to hear, especially at this point where a lot of studios and streamers and the like have already started to kind of build these empires on YouTube. I think a lot of people who are new to the game think, I need to race to catch up to where people are at. But unfortunately, I do think, or not unfortunately, I think it's just a case of, if you really want to build a strong network that's going to meet all of your KPIs, you have to do it with, care and consideration, and be willing to experiment and, dig into the data. And you can't just throw up a bunch of stuff or start to launch. I wouldn't recommend launching, rather than trying the wheel approach and starting to build out slowly based on data. I wouldn't recommend just launching 20 channels and hoping for the best, unless you just want to burn through resource.
Yeah. It's
just, a lot of them will flop.
Well, that's the other thing, is that there's two things there, aren't there? It's the long game. We're playing the long game, and you do need to invest in learning those skills, and the skills that Graham talked about a couple of weeks ago, in terms of, optimizing every single piece of content to make it more attractive to the YouTube algorithm as we go on, and also, and to help it get discovered. But also it's about building for the future. YouTube is growing and growing and growing still, and becoming ever more popular and more powerful. Mm-hmm. So it's really about, thinking where you're going to be in a year's time, 2 years' time, not necessarily just for that piece of content, but it's also strategically, perhaps, for a company that is a big IP owner, really thinking of where things are going to be in 2-3 years' time. That's
a really good point too, because I think there's a lot of IP holders that ones that we work with, that, might have theatrical releases. And if they've built this amazing network, they can leverage that, so they might have a release that's, again, I'm going to say horror film because I'm a horror enthusiast myself, but they put it out they can support it on the horror network that they've built, or a marquee channel as well. So there's multiple places, non-traditional spaces, where they can then leverage that theatrical release and also make some money doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's a little bit about patience and learning the skills. And then finally, we come on to your tip, which is serving different audiences. Okay, tell us about that.
Yeah, I think this is a good one as well, because oftentimes, especially big rights holders, they have a lot of different considerations when it comes to the audiences that they want to hit. And YouTube pretty much has all those audiences there. It's just about, again, pulling those levers and tweaking the optimization to make sure that you're hitting them. And in theory, you could be building out a network that has channels servicing those different types of audiences. So what I mean is, it might be that you have, say, a bunch of different kind of sitcom content. Let's keep going back to sitcoms. And some of them are resonating with a younger audience, say Gen Z, young millennials. So you can create a genre-based channel specifically with those IPs, are resonating with those folks. You're optimizing the content specifically for that audience and reaching them there. And then you have the sitcoms that might be for the older audiences, the Gen Xers, the baby boomers, et cetera. And you're packaging those on a separate sitcom genre hub that's servicing those older audiences. So I think that's what's so great, is that you're able to really curate your IP catalog to service whoever it might be. And again, I think this is something that you can't just do from the get-go. It takes time to kind of even understand what audiences you might have. I think sometimes what happens with us, with a lot of our clients, is we start to develop this network of channels, and there's always surprises about what IPs are resonating people and what IPs are resonating with which people. And until you do that experimentation, you might not know.
Yeah. And we're coming back to an earlier point that you made about English-speaking territories, which automatically, I think a lot of people a lot of companies are looking to target. But how about dubbing then? And how about bringing all of this content to new audiences? Because we've got lots of different AI tools that are being built now. So it starts to become much more affordable from a YouTube perspective to target various different audiences in India, for example, or Nordic markets in their domestic languages. So tell us about how you're approaching language and dubbing then.
Well, I'll go back and say there's two schools of thought with us, because there is the MLA tool, which is relatively new to which is relatively new to the platform. So that's the multi-language audio tool. And you might be familiar with, say, Mr. Beast is using it. He previously had all of his foreign language channels separately from his main one, but he's now dormanted all of those, and he's using the multi-language audio tool on his main channel, which means he's able to have dubbed tracks on all of his videos and subtitles on all of his one single upload.
Are we talking, is that automatically dubbing them, or is he actually uploading different dubs for each language?
He goes away and he has actors who create those dubs for him for all those different languages. So similarly, if you had, say, in this case, like a theatrical studio, they would have to provide the dub versions or the sub versions of those audio tracks.
Okay.
So you could use the MLA tool, which is, again, relatively new, and we're still gathering data internally about how successfully it's able to reach audiences in those different territories. Our data does heavily suggest that it's not entirely effective without metadata alongside of it. So you'd also want to have someone who is able to translate and write all of the metadata.
Well, that was going to be my question, actually, because we've talked about how important it is to optimize content. Yeah. So if all of a sudden we are uploading a dubbed audio track, then into the same, essentially on the same video, which is hosted in the same place on YouTube, then wouldn't you also need to upload international language metadata?
Yes. And then in theory, it's served whatever the user is logged into, the language that they've chosen is how that metadata will appear to them if it is available. So in theory, if someone in Thailand is logged in as a Thai user, then that metadata will be served to them in Thai, as long as you have Thai metadata written and they can select the Thai dub.
But at the moment, they can only do that if you're creating different videos with different language metadata?
Yes. So it's a bit complicated. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is that's a lot of resource. And you obviously need to either, resource out native speakers for all of this or have that resource in-house. And in fairness, at Little Dot, we do have a lot of speakers for lots of different languages. So we always have Spanish, Italian, French language speakers readily available, which is really beneficial for us.
Part of your team, you're such a big team, right? So you have around 600 team members, don't you?
Our department is 120, but my team alone is 30 to service a few different clients.
Right.
And we do deal with a few different foreign language accounts as well. And I think it's a lot of resource. So it's something to consider about what the actual reach is going to be. And again, jury's still out about whether or not that's actually lucrative for most clients. I think the truth is probably there's somewhere in the middle. It's not get dubs for 10 different languages across the country. It's probably, okay, maybe Spanish is the one language that actually does have a lucrative audience, and maybe you should consider doing it with just that language. I said it was two schools of thought earlier because there is the MLA tool where you just have to have a single channel and you can upload the different audio tracks to the one upload. But historically, what we've done, not just at Little Dot, but I think, lots of people have done this across YouTube, is to actually launch localized language channels specifically, which obviously you can imagine that, again, the resource there is very heavy because there you're actually creating different uploads, uploading them to all the channels.
Doubling your resource, aren't you, on one channel? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think for us, to be honest, those have been more successful than the MLA tool.
Right.
I
so
think
it might actually be worth it. It might be worth it, depending on what the content is and the potential that you're seeing for that content. That might be something that you would advise a client to say, we would suggest you create a domestic YouTube foreign language channel for this particular market.
Yes. But again, I think that comes down to how lucrative you think that market might be, how big of an audience in that market. Again, this tends to be Latin America. We do some stuff with Nordics, for example, but some of them are always going to be very small. So I guess it just, again, depends on what the gameplay is. If it's going to be for revenue, for example, India or a lot of Southeast Asia or Asian countries are always going to be low revenue generators. So it just depends on what your KPIs are, really.
Okay, Ali, that's fantastic. Really interesting insight there. It's not straightforward, this stuff, is it? But actually, the opportunity is incredible. I think to look at all these different ways to monetize and optimize your content and take it out to different audiences. It's there's a real opportunity for lots of studios and IP owners to do that right now.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a lot of effort, but it's worth the time, the resource. It's worth the experimentation, and it's something that could really pay off in the long term in terms of building a huge audience and also bringing in quite a bit of extra revenue as well.
Telecast.
Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to another Telecast. Should you spend money on YouTube? What's paid media and what can it do? And what are the synergies between content, YouTube channels and paid media? We're going to get into that in a second with my guest, Wayne Davison, Chief Revenue Officer at Little Dot Studios, as we continue in the latest in our series of YouTube tips for TV industry businesses and content creators. For more videos like this with practical and strategic YouTube tips and advice for TV industry businesses and content creators, just click on the subscribe button below. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Thank you. That was very good.
Thank you. There we go. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm really well. It's a bit warm in the studio today.
It's a little bit warm, and that might pay later. We'll see.
Yes. Well, let's see. And we're going to be talking about money, which gets everybody hot under the collar, certainly in the TV industry and the content industry. So when we started talking about getting you involved in this latest episode, it was really interesting to hear about paid media, because this is something that, we've talked about tips so far in terms of strategies, some real practical tips on optimization. We've talked about multi-channel strategy so far. But now we're talking about money. So let's get down to the money. And the concept of paying money to earn money is a bit strange. So, but this is what we're going to get into. So, sure. First of all, tell us about your role then. What does your role at Little Dot encapsulate as Chief Revenue Officer?
It's a whole host of different things. So I joined the business about 8 years ago. I came in from the TV business, actually. I used to be in business affairs on production and distribution. So I came in with that kind of lens on things, working with distribution teams, that side. More recently, the last 3-4 years, I've been working as Chief Revenue Officer. I look after our ad sales business. I look after our paid media teams. That includes our ad sales business includes teams in Australia and the UK, as well as partners that we have elsewhere. I look after our distribution business in Germany. I look after our SaaS product, which we acquired a couple of years ago, last year, in fact, sorry. And that's
software as a service.
Software as a service, thank you. Yes, sorry. This is a problem with this job. Lots of acronyms. Please stop me as we go along. And then I also sit on the board of one of our other companies. So my role is pretty varied, but I kind of, in terms of this conversation, for the purposes of what we're talking about, is paid media, and the ad sales side is two ends of the same spectrum, I guess, in terms of money in and money out. Okay.
Well, let's talk about that then. In my intro, I talked about spending money to make money, and the concept of spending money for anybody within the who owns IP is a bit of a foreign concept. So, if I'm an IP owner, whether TV production business or a studio, network, etc., why should I spend money on YouTube?
Look, there's kind of multiple reasons, and I think one thing I'll also say is the grammar of this gets incredibly confusing for everybody. The piece around spending money, you hear people talk about media buying, media spending, paid media. They're broadly the same thing. So first of all, clear out that. I think in terms of why, it's all about delivering outcomes, and those outcomes are very dependent on what you're trying to achieve out of that. At Little Dot, we're working with lots of different types of partners. So we work with sports rights holders, content owners, producers, distributors, broadcasters, brands. All of those different types of partners that we're working with have very different outcomes they're trying to achieve. Yeah. So, and what we see actually a lot with the partners that we work with is when, before they come to us, they're spending money for that purpose and they achieve that purpose. It's, it may be for building an audience, it may be targeting a type of demographic, it may be that you're trying to move people from the platform, off the platform, to websites, to tickets, to whatever it is. So there's the investment in media on the platform serves those different functions depending on what they're trying to achieve.
Okay, and this is what should we really be focusing our thoughts on YouTube at this point, because it is the world's second biggest search engine.
It is indeed. You've been listening.
And should we just think about that in terms of visibility? So paid media, in terms of YouTube, is about getting eyeballs rather than generally building very slowly through organic growth, about optimizing videos. We've talked about making the right sort of videos, the right sort of length, the different formats, all the rest of the content, making your content as great as possible.
Yep.
And that's going to give you some growth, but perhaps slowly. But this is about supercharging that growth and bringing it in front of more and more eyeballs, right?
Correct. Well, in that particular context, absolutely right. The important thing that I would say around paid media is the kind of synergies with the organic activities. So you can just spend money without all that organic work. You can just if you want to get a set of eyeballs to a piece of content, you can spend the amount of money that you require to get the number of eyeballs that you require. Everybody's happy in that kind of broad context. You hit those numbers. But if you want long-term growth, the organic alongside the paid is really, really key. So the synergies between those two activities becomes very important. And the reason for that is twofold. One, the opportunities that paid drives, it can drive an audience to a set of things. But the spin-off of that is also the what's called the earned viewing. So the earned viewing that comes from paid viewing starts to increase the value of the spend. So for the sake of argument, you spend £1 on the platform, you might get 1,000 eyeballs back. If you're doing it in isolation, if you spend £1 and you're already building a channel, you might get 1,300 eyeballs back because you've paid for those first set, and then you get 300 off the back of that as an earned viewing. Now that's a very high percentage, but just for the sake of argument. So the synergies between those two things becomes really, really important in terms of how you're doing that.
So it's a case of optimizing your YouTube channels and making them as discoverable as possible.
Yep.
Because if you're just doing organic work on your tagging and optimizing and making it amazingly discoverable,
yep.
If you're starting from scratch or you're starting from very small levels, then it is going to take you a little while to climb the mountain, isn't it? Because all you're doing is making sure that your videos can appear in other people's feeds.
Correct.
And can appear in next to videos that are similar in content, and because obviously YouTube wants to drive viewers, wants to keep them on the platform and,
sure.
and serve them content that they're probably going to like. So that's where the optimization comes in. But
yep.
If we're talking about paid as well, adding that into the mix here, is it a case of doing paid media as well as optimization? Does that create an even bigger effect that's the bigger than the sum of its parts, if you like?
Sure. In short, yes. And there's different ways of approaching it, right? So there's different ad formats that can be used in that. So there's what's called in-feed, in-stream, and then there's another TrueView for Action, which is a product that moves people in different directions. But I'll talk about those different routes because I think it's probably give a bit of detail around that. So in-feed is kind of discovery. So you talk about the organic piece. How do you get your video top of homepage? How do you get it in suggested videos? You can actually pay for that to happen. So you then, depending on who you're trying to target, who your audience groups are, what the segments are, the territories you're trying to focus on, there's a whole host of different things to think about. Whereas the organic side is we're just going to push this out. It's going to scale across the whole platform. Paid is very much about targeting. So in-feed is basically like search engine payment for search engine paid search.
So it's basically the results are coming out at the top of your feed, with an ad, basically.
It says sponsored, those kind of things. So, and that can be, depending on, and there's different routes to doing it. There's different kind of methods of how you apply that. So I'll talk about that in a bit. So you've got in-feed, which is the first piece. Then in-stream is basically video ads. So as you see within YouTube, you get served an ad. That will feature within that. So in-stream, you can pay for to feature in certain types of content, to feature in certain types of for different audiences. What you see that way around. What you see versus what I see in as an ad will depend on your behaviors on the platform. So we might be watching the same piece of content, but the ad you're getting served is specific to the audience type that you fall into, whereas it might be totally different to the type of video ad that I'm getting. So that in-stream ad is about that kind of targeting route.
So if I want to place an ad for my content, whatever that is, it could be my new sitcom channel. We were talking with Ali Penelope from Little Dot a couple of weeks ago about a sitcom channel and how we might scale that.
Yep.
So if I was launching a new sitcom channel and I really wanted to give it a push through paid media, can I choose pretty much any video to have my video served in stream, if you like? I mean, is essentially any video that's uploaded onto YouTube you can advertise against. Is
yes,
that right?
That is true. But what you want to do is build a strategy around it. As all of the other things you've spoken about with all of my other colleagues, It's about building a strategy for how you want that content to be visible in front of an audience. So if you're building a new sitcom channel, you might have a 15-second trailer that you want to run as an in-stream video ad that's just an awareness proposition. So that's kind of starting to build a bit of momentum, a bit of awareness around that. You then may have a weekly upload on the channel. So you might want to put that in feed as a discovery ad. So it's a clickable ad. What the important thing is, it works in a very similar way to the organic activity, which is if somebody clicks into the ad but doesn't into the content, let's call it content for the sake of this conversation. If they click into the content and don't stay, it doesn't do the job that you're trying to do, because you're not then getting the earned viewing off the back of it that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
So the goal is to serve the types of content that people still want to see to those types of audiences. So it's invest in the paid to support the organic. Is that continues to resonate through the conversation, through the process, because you need that audience that you're targeting as part of your advertising spend to actually want to watch the content and actually want to stay with the content.
Yeah, that's it. This is all about signposting people to your content, isn't it? I mean, you're never going to get people to watch the content who aren't interested. You don't want them to, because you want people to stay with you once they're there. You want them to be there watching your content for, not quite 100% of the time, but most of the time, right?
You'd be very surprised how wrong people get that, because they get caught by the vanity metric of, I've got a view on this piece of content, and therefore they hit a set of numbers. Now, again, kind of depends on the purpose of what you're trying to achieve, but if you're going out with a vanity number to say to a brand partner, look how many eyeballs we've got, brilliant, that's fine. But the actual data underlying that is, yes, you might have 1 million views on that piece of content, but nobody stayed longer than the first 3 seconds of it.
Yeah.
So
people watch the content, but they didn't really watch it.
So, data is a brilliant thing. It can tell you whatever story you want it to tell you, as I'm sure you've heard many times. But that is, that's very much true of kind of how we operate with our content. You want to make sure it's actually serving the purpose that it's trying to achieve. So the process of sitting that paid media with experts that know what they're doing is really important, because people will do I can get you 1 million views. Brilliant. Off you go. Good luck. But don't bother coming back, because it's not going to deliver you that kind of long-term scale that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. And the long-term scale and what you are trying to achieve, as we talked about in our intro here, is making money. I mean, it could be one of your objectives, but let's focus on that.
Sure.
Rather than brand awareness or anything else. Let's just focus on making money there.
Yep.
So you've launched your our sitcom channel, and
has it got a name?
Just drop one. Come on, have a think.
I'm not creative in this. I'm not too early. Too early.
Okay, just call it LOL.
Fine.
Or
Great.
something like that.
Yeah,
there
right.
you go.
I think somebody did.
I'm sure there's another one.
I'm sure I think somebody did
already. It's a bit obvious, but there we are. So we've launched LOL, and we've launched that with a short 30-second ad for the channel, which makes people aware that there's a channel out there.
Yep.
And we're also backing that up with short clips once we've launched every new episode, let's say once a week.
Sure.
So how do we get to making money then? Now we're spending that money.
Yep.
And we're hopefully optimizing our video on the organic growth side, and we've done the right job, or a company such as yours with your paid media experts are
I'm aware this does sound like a sales pitch. I didn't mean it to.
Yeah,
but keep going.
But they're targeting the exact audience that we want for our channel. When do we get to the money coming in? Because that's when everybody's, at that point, it's like everyone's getting a bit nervous. It's like, okay, you see the numbers coming up and the watch time, but when are we going to start making some money?
Well, I think, look, the reality of, can I get back what I spent, is possibly, and over a long period of time. The return on investment from paid media directly into ad revenue off the back of it is pretty out of proportion. But the goal is to supercharge a channel, in this case, supercharge your channel, supercharge the content, So it's getting to the audience faster than it would do if you were just trying to build it, as you said, as an organic process, and that is a slow process. So the money is coming in anyway. So, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the revenue on a channel, as long as you've set up all the things you need to set up, you've got your AdSense account all attached to it and all of that kind of thing, you are generating money throughout that process. Anything that is an ad, so even if you put a discovery ad and somebody's clicked into that, YouTube treats that as an ad, so it doesn't serve advertising on that piece of content. So you're making the money from the earned viewing on other content that the audience has watched, if this makes sense. So the piece of content you've paid for to put in front of the eyeballs of the audience is not going to make money directly from itself because it is treated by YouTube as an ad.
Right.
But everything else that you're then served in your homepage or in suggested video then starts to generate money. And you basically, what you're doing is building scale and building audience to the channel so that the long-term benefits and effect of that is that you're generating revenue from the advertising that's going on to the channel. Now, we ran various tests over the last several years. I'm still yet to be convinced it's a really effective way to drive revenue directly, but certainly as an indirect kind of impact, I think it's a significant thing. And that advertising revenue comes through multiple different routes, which I can talk about if that's helpful.
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, though, I mean, what we're looking at is if we're launching our new channel or as any sort of proposition, we've got to think about this is marketing.
Yeah,
this is probably the only marketing that you've got to do. So any channel that goes out there, you're going to promote your shows and you're going to promote your brand as well as part of that. So really, it's about, you know, as a content owner, an IP owner, it's really thinking about if you're launching your own channel, you've got to market it.
It's about visibility. You know, and again, like I said, it's about outcomes. If there are, let's say, there's a live event that's off the back of that show, there's an ad product within the YouTube ecosystem or in the Google ecosystem called TrueView for Action, which is a clickable element that can take you into ticketing or into a website or into those kind of things. So there's a potential to drive indirect revenue from the marketing proposition that you're building. And we do that with some of the sports partners we work with where, you know, they're trying to get bums on seats at an event or whatever. Using that kind of ad product can help. It's a layer on top of your in-feed or in-stream that is clickable that takes you into those different routes. So there's the indirect stream of revenue that you can possibly earn. You know, that might be merchandising, it might be product, it might be, as I say, ticketing or other routes. You know, there's some partners we work with who are trying to get subscription to their service. You know, it may be in that kind of, it may be an SVOD, for example. Can it drive additional subscribers to that service, and therefore you're driving indirect revenue off of the platform?
Yeah.
But it's hard to drive direct revenue or to show a very obvious correlation between I've invested £1 million, I've got £1.5 million off the back of it.
Yeah.
That will take time. So, you know, again, it depends. As you say, it's a very, very much a marketing proposition. We work with some kids content partners, that is, where they, you know, the market, the TV market is, the arse has fallen out of it pretty much. And those TV shows used to be the route to the merchandise, to all the products. How do you get stuff out on Amazon or in Target, or depending on where you are? That indirect impact is really important in that kids space, because there is nowhere really that gains a visibility for a kids product, a new kids product, like TV used to. You know, TV shows, as you know, were loss leaders for the product. They gave them away to the broadcasters. There's nowhere to put it anymore. So YouTube started to become an interesting space where people are using the platform to drive product sales into retail. So that's another route depending on your kind of purpose. But again, it requires a significant investment. This is not a cheap exercise. If you can invest, you know, £1,000, you can invest £5,000, you get effectively what you pay for. and when you spend is also really important. So you might want to hold off actually spending the money straight away. You might want to wait until you built a bit of organic activity, because actually the earned viewing on the back of that is more significant because there's somewhere else for the audience to go, having spent the money in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. So, and so for people getting started on YouTube right from square one, I think that there are two levels of that they have to pass through, two sort of stages, if you like, right from square one. You've got 500 subscribers. Once you get that, there are certain opportunities to earn revenue, but 1,000 subscribers is really the main opportunity when it opens up AdSense opportunities, and you can start taking and activating.
I'm glad you're saying that, because I can't remember what the threshold was, but if it's 1,000, I'll take that. It used to be, I think it used to be 8, but it's shifted now.
Yeah, and there's other criteria as well. I think there's it's 3,000 views as well. But there's also another criteria about shorts, which is something like 3 million views, which very, very few people are going to get to. Right?
But also the revenue coming back from shorts at the moment is still not great.
Yeah.
So it's a different piece. But yes, once you've hit those thresholds, if you're correct, I'm sure you are, that's when you start to earn from AdSense revenues and from other people spending on the platform, money coming into your channel. Yeah.
So it probably makes sense to wait until that point before you start to invest into paid.
Well, it also depends. It may be that you want to use it to accelerate to get to that point.
Yeah.
So, we're working with some partners where they want to increase their subscriber count. We've found some interesting routes to do that through paid media. So it may be that they just want to get over that hump. So you can invest to get over that hump. And actually that's the same point, right? It's kind of, what point do you want to engage with it? You can wait and see if you can build the organic, or you can throw it in front of as many people as you want through the paid strategies. So even at that early stage, that's actually may not be a terrible solution.
Yeah.
Just depends on what you want to do and how much you want to spend.
Yeah. Okay. So in recent months, we've seen some big studios and publishers as well, who are starting to sell ads direct as well, or space on their own YouTube channels. So you don't have to go via Google to buy advertising on their channel. You can buy directly from their sales teams. Tell us about the rationale for that, and I'm assuming these are sizable businesses that obviously have got their own sales teams. But just explain that a little bit, and why you would prefer possibly to buy directly from BBC Studios, for example, rather than going through YouTube.
Or Little Dot Studios, if you will.
Or Little Dot Studios.
Again, sales pitch. So let me go backwards one step before you get to there. So in terms of kind of where revenue is coming from without direct sales, the ad revenue is coming through two sets of routes, I guess, through Google selling. Most of it is self-serve. So actually, as an ad agency or a brand, you don't need to go to a sales team to buy inventory. You have the ability to just log into their platform and buy space in the way I've been talking about. This is the other end of the spectrum that I've already spoken about. So you talk about paid media in the buying side, or media buying. The media buying agencies are doing exactly this, and that is where the revenue is going into your channels. So you have kind of, I guess there's a funnel of activities. So there's the very basic stuff is YouTube standard auction products. So you can buy non-skippable, skippable ads, bumper ads that are in stream and that go on the channel. And you buy them in an auction. So think eBay. You set a price that you want to spend. If that inventory is available to the target audience you're trying to reach on that particular channel, or on that set of content, actually, forget about the channels in the auction case. You're just trying to reach an audience. It will then spend the money, and if it's not spending the money, you might need to lift your price a little bit. But the what is called the CPM, the cost per thousand that is being spent, is very low. The CPMs are very poor on an auction product, so you'll see auction revenue coming in at that first stage. Then there's the next stage in the funnel is what YouTube actually, they've changed it on Monday last week, called YouTube Select. YouTube Select is their kind of, what used to be their top 5% is now their top 1% as of this change of their channels. Now that's algorithmically identified. So they're saying it may be, they're curating them into different groups. So it may be entertainment, but what they see as entertainment is different to what the TV industry calls entertainment. So you might include Mr. Beast in that. It might be a whole bunch of creators doing prank content or whatever, but it's falls into entertainment, sport, lifestyle, a whole host of different content groups. So you can buy that then either direct from YouTube or through their self-serve product. So it's called Instant Reserve. So it's a reserved product. So you're basically, rather than the auction piece, which is just send it out, hope the stuff comes back, you can say, okay, I want to reserve this inventory like you would in telly. And I want to spend, but you have to spend a higher CPM to achieve that. So that's the kind of next tier of activity. But again, it's not targeted. It's targeted in audience types, but it's not targeted in content types. What you then have after that, you then have the direct sales opportunity. So the direct sales opportunity is very much akin to like TV. We have a whole set of channels. As a publisher, BBC Studios, any broadcaster you talk to them, they have their own channels. I can come to you and say, here's these channels. You can layer on the audience targeting, but also you want to contextually align your brand to our content. So you might have some cooking products. You want to put that content against that advert against the Gordon Ramsay channel. We can sell you that channel, but we can sell that at a much higher premium than you would on either the Instant Reserve YouTube Select or the auction price. So the rewards are significantly higher, but the effort that is required in doing that is also proportionately higher too.
Is the targeting much more effective then when you're buying direct? I mean, again, if I'm a cookware brand and I want to advertise against a Gordon Ramsay show,
yep.
Then if I can outbid everybody else, then putting my ad in that on that show, what's the difference between that and actually buying direct from the Gordon Ramsay?
Well, you can't specifically buy the channels if you're buying it through the auction processes. So if you're bidding, you can't buy content, you can buy audience. So it's targeting me, it's targeting you as an individual.
Okay.
It doesn't matter where you are on the platform.
So it's not going to be on the Gordon Ramsay
It could be
channel
anywhere.
unless you're buying
Depending
it.
on what you're watching, Justin.
Yeah.
That ad will serve against that.
So it's following you around the internet.
Correct.
So
as a brand, you're not getting the confidence that it may necessarily be in the places you really want it to be.
Got it. Okay.
Whereas you can reserve that inventory on Gordon's channel or on Nigella's channel or whatever it is you want to buy. You go and like you do with telly. I want to go against this particular show at 9 o'clock on ITV.
Yeah.
This is exactly the same, but with a total, a new demographic, and you can target that demographic. So it may be still that I'm watching Gordon's channel, you're watching Gordon's channel. If I've layered on an audience targeting piece to that, and it's that trying to find people who cook, they're not coming anywhere near me because I'm terrible at cooking. So, but you may be an expert chef, in which case you're getting that ad against the Gordon channel, and they're comfortable as a brand that it's against the brand safe content that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So that's the difference, is that it's all very much it's contextual alignment between brand and content, but with an audience layer on top of it.
Got it.
And in the worlds where, and not to get too buried in this because this is a horrible space, but the cookies start being deprecated on platforms. If you can't target audience anymore in the way that you used to because you have no external influences that are visible, you are then wholly dependent on contextual alignment. So that whole piece becomes even more important.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different talk show.
Okay. Well, now I understand why Google is now one of the biggest companies in the world, right?
They've done it very well.
There's lots of different ways to spend money with them.
There is indeed.
Yeah, and we all know about you've been followed around the internet with ads as you as an individual. That's a very, very clever technology. So let's wrap this up, Wayne. In terms of we're talking about this is marketing opportunities, paid media on YouTube. It's a long game, much in the same way that optimisation is, and publishing and all the different skill sets that you need to build a successful organic performance on YouTube. Same comes with paid media. You need essentially the more you can be much more targeted, and it can help you for a number of different.
Can be targeted. It's not necessarily a long game in what you're trying to achieve. It can be short bursts. It can be quick and dirty. If you're trying to generate money on the back of it, that's the long game. But in terms of depending on what you're trying to achieve out of the spend, that's where paid comes into it. Equally, to work with partners, and be that Little Dot or otherwise, the work with partners that understand both elements of that is really important, because we see a lot of people spending with this media agency and that creative agency and this YouTube experts. If all the three parts aren't aligned, it gets really messy and nobody gets the thing out that they want to. So actually to work with, I think there's, and again, probably another talk show, but or podcast, if you will. Let's make it more relevant to the time. The importance of aligning all those three together is really key, because people need to understand the interconnection between all those parts.
So it can be super effective, but also without it being targeted, you can waste a lot of money, burn a lot of money quite quickly.
Yes, you can.
Especially through
you
auctions.
can. Yeah, you can.
Well, that's about it for our YouTube for TV Producers Supercut show. If you made it this far, I hope you got some value from the video. For more videos featuring the movers and shakers of the TV and digital content industries, just hit the subscribe button below. Telecast was produced by Spirit Studios and recorded in London. Thanks a lot for watching.